sign this resignation letter, or we terminate you immediately." Those were the exact words. After 21 years of dedicated service, I was given 30 minutes to decide. I chose resignation, but I wrote my own version. One carefully crafted sentence that changed everything. 5 days later, their corporate attorney called at 7:43 a.m., voice tight with panic. "Miss Vaughn, we need to discuss the precise language in your resignation letter." Logan Pierce, the 33-year-old CFO, went completely silent when I explained what my conditional resignation actually meant, what they'd unknowingly agreed to by accepting it. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. But let me take you back to the beginning. Let me explain exactly how I ended up in Conference Room C at 4:17 p.m. on a Friday afternoon in October 2025, wearing my deep red wrap top and professional black skirt, watching 3 arrogant executives realize they just made a catastrophic error that would cost them $1.75 million. My name is Anna Vaughn, and I'm 46 years old. For 21 years, I served as Senior Director of Global Operations at Ascent Systems, a software development company based in Denver, Colorado. I started in July 2004 as a junior operations analyst, fresh from graduate school, earning $42,000 annually. By October 2025, my compensation had reached $192,000 plus bonuses, comprehensive benefits, and stock options accumulated over 2 decades. I managed 41 professionals across 3 continents. My division generated $63 million in annual revenue. I wasn't just another employee with a fancy title. I was the living archive of institutional knowledge that kept Ascent Systems functioning. When executives forgot critical client relationships, my phone rang. When finance needed historical data from 2007, they contacted me. My email archives stretched back 21 years, meticulously organized. For 21 years, I was absolutely indispensable. Until suddenly, I wasn't. The problems began 8 months before that October confrontation. In February 2025, Ascent Systems was acquired by Dominion Corporate Holdings, an $11.4 billion conglomerate that specialized in purchasing medium-sized tech companies and systematically eliminating expensive, experienced employees over 40. I'd witnessed this exact pattern destroy 3 competing companies over the preceding 18 months. I knew precisely what was coming. Let me be absolutely clear about what I actually did at Ascent Systems, because this matters when you understand what happened next. I started in July 2004 as a junior operations analyst, assigned to a cramped desk in the corner of a converted warehouse space that smelled perpetually of coffee and printer toner. My first project was reconciling vendor contracts that nobody had organized in 3 years. Within 6 months, I'd saved the company $340,000 by identifying duplicate payments and renegotiating terms with suppliers who'd been overcharging us for years. By 2008, I was managing client implementations across North America. By 2012, I'd expanded operations to Europe. By 2018, I was overseeing enterprise relationships in Asia-Pacific that generated more revenue than our entire domestic portfolio had in 2004. My division didn't just generate $63 million annually. We maintained relationships with 127 enterprise clients, some dating back to 2006. I personally knew the procurement directors at 89 of those companies. I attended their children's graduations. I sent congratulations when they got promoted. I remembered which ones hated morning calls and which ones preferred detailed email summaries over phone conversations. When Siemens threatened to leave in 2019 over a billing dispute, I resolved it in one phone call because I'd maintained that relationship for 13 years. When Honeywell needed emergency support during their system migration in 2021, my team delivered because I'd personally trained everyone on legacy protocols that existed nowhere in current documentation. I wasn't just the institutional archive. I was the institution itself. The acquisition finalized on February 14th, 2025. Valentine's Day. How appropriately ironic. The new management team arrived February 22nd. Cameron Foster walked into our building at 9 a.m., wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than my first car, carrying a leather portfolio embossed with the Yale School of Management logo. He was 35 years old with an impressive resume that collapsed under any real scrutiny. Yale MBA, graduated 2015. Previously an executive at Tech Vista, a startup that burned through $47 million in venture capital before imploding spectacularly in 2023. Before that, a brief stint at McKinsey where he'd apparently advised companies on operational efficiency despite never actually running operations himself. Zero practical experience in enterprise software. Zero understanding of manufacturing clients. Zero knowledge of the intricate systems that kept companies like ours functioning. They scheduled a mandatory company-wide meeting for March 3rd at 10 a.m. Cameron stood in our main conference room, a space I'd personally designed when we relocated to this building in 2013 and delivered the standard corporate acquisition speech I'd heard nearly word for word from 3 other doomed companies. "We're incredibly excited about this partnership," he announced with rehearsed enthusiasm that fooled absolutely nobody with actual corporate experience. "Nothing fundamental is going to change. We deeply value your contributions. Your positions are completely secure. Dominion acquired Ascent specifically because of the exceptional talent here, and we're committed to preserving that culture and expertise." I'd heard this identical speech before, delivered with the same false sincerity. When executives promise nothing will change, it means everything is about to change dramatically. The pattern revealed itself within 3 weeks. I recognized it immediately because I'd watched it destroy competitors with methodical precision. First came the organizational assessment. Every department had received identical emails requesting detailed documentation of all processes, systems, and personnel responsibilities. They framed it as routine integration protocol. It wasn't routine. They were identifying which employees possessed knowledge that couldn't be easily transferred and which ones could be eliminated without immediate operational collapse. Second came the consultant invasion. Bain and Company arrived March 15th with their laptops and condescending questions, conducting interviews they called efficiency audits. I'd seen this exact playbook at Morrison Technologies in 2023. 6 months after those audits, every employee earning above $140,000 was gone. Third came the restructuring announcement. Cameron sent a company-wide email April 2nd about organizational realignment to optimize synergies and streamline operations. Corporate speak for planned terminations. I started backing up everything that night. 21 years of emails, exported methodically to encrypted external drives. Client contact databases with personal notes I'd accumulated over 2 decades. Vendor contracts with handwritten margin notes explaining context that existed nowhere in official files. Meeting recordings I'd kept from critical negotiations. Performance reviews documenting every quantifiable achievement. I purchased 3 separate 2 terabytes drives and stored them in different locations. One at home, one in a safe deposit box, one with my attorney. By April 15th, I had documentation of every significant decision I'd made, every relationship I'd built, every dollar I'd saved or generated for Ascent Systems since July 2004. I knew exactly what was coming. This time, I'd be ready. Grayson Mitchell arrived May 8th as Director of Strategic Operations, a newly created position that didn't exist in any organizational chart until that morning. He was 27 years old with a business degree from University of Southern California, 2 years of experience at a logistics startup that had never managed enterprise clients, and absolutely no understanding of our industry. Cameron introduced him at a department meeting I wasn't invited to. I learned about it from my assistant, who forwarded me the calendar invitation she'd received by mistake before it was hastily deleted. By May 15th, Grayson was attending client calls I'd previously managed. By May 22nd, he was listed as primary contact on accounts I'd maintained for over a decade. By June 1st, my calendar invitations to weekly operations meetings simply stopped arriving. Nobody officially told me I was being replaced. They just systematically excluded me while transferring my responsibilities to someone who couldn't distinguish between our legacy ERP system and the newer cloud-based infrastructure. I watched him fumble through a presentation about Q2 projections, confidently citing metrics from the wrong database. I said nothing. When he scheduled a system upgrade during peak usage hours that would have crashed operations for our 3 largest clients, I sent a single polite email suggesting alternative timing. He ignored it. Logan Pierce, the CFO, started CC&G Grayson on correspondence that previously came only to me. Cameron began referencing strategic operations in meetings without acknowledging my department at all. The message was unmistakable. They were building my replacement narrative while I was still employed, constructing the story of how my position had become redundant. Logan Pierce called me into his office July 18th at 3:30 p.m. No calendar invitation, no agenda, just a brief message from his assistant asking if I was available for a quick conversation. He sat behind his desk with a folder containing a single sheet of paper. No preamble, no pleasantries. Anna, we're restructuring compensation across senior leadership to align with industry standards. Your current package is significantly above market rate for your role. We're offering a revised position at $94,000 annually, effective August 1st. Same responsibilities, adjusted compensation. A $98,000 pay cut for the same job. The job I'd been performing at increasingly higher levels of responsibility for 21 years. I said nothing for exactly 7 seconds. I watched him shift uncomfortably in his chair, waiting for me to protest or negotiate or break down. I'll need to review this with my attorney, I said calmly. I assume you'll provide this offer in writing with full details of the revised position description and compensation structure. His expression flickered, just briefly. He hadn't expected that response. Of course, we'll have documentation sent over by end of business today. I left his office at 3:47 p.m. and called Elizabeth Hartman by 4:15 p.m. Elizabeth Hartman, senior partner at Hartman & Associates, specialized in executive employment law and had successfully litigated against Dominion Corporate Holdings twice in the previous 3 years. She charged $650 per hour and was worth every cent. By 6 p.m. that evening, I had retained counsel and begun documenting everything systematically. The call came October 24th at 3:45 p.m. Friday afternoon. Cameron's assistant. Could I please come to conference room C at 4:15 p.m. for a brief meeting? I knew exactly what this was. Elizabeth had prepared me for this exact scenario 3 weeks earlier. I arrived at 4:17 p.m. wearing my deep red wrap top and professional black skirt. Cameron sat at the head of the table. Logan to his right. Levi Coleman, the COO, to his left. A single folder sat in front of the empty chair, clearly meant for me. Anna, thank you for coming, Cameron began with false courtesy. We've made the difficult decision to restructure your position. We're offering you the opportunity to resign effective immediately. The letter is prepared. You have 30 minutes to sign, or we'll proceed with immediate termination. Logan slid the folder across the table. Pre-written resignation letter. 2 pages of legal language that released them from every contractual obligation they owed me. I opened the folder. Read slowly. Close it carefully. I choose resignation, I said, but I'll write my own letter. I pulled out the single sheet of paper I'd been carrying in my portfolio for 6 weeks. 42 words Elizabeth and I had crafted with surgical precision. I, Anna Vaughn, resigned from my position as Senior Director of Global Operations at Ascent Systems, effective upon receipt of all compensation, benefits, stock options, and change of control provisions contractually owed to me under my October 2019 employment agreement. I signed it, dated it, slid it across the table. Cameron smiled. Logan nodded. Neither of them had actually read what I wrote. Thank you, Anna. We'll process this immediately. I walked out of conference room C at 4:32 p.m. I didn't clean out my desk. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I simply left. The call came 5 days later. Wednesday, October 29th at 7:43 a.m. Jonathan Winters, General Counsel for Dominion Corporate Holdings. His voice had that particular tension of someone who just discovered a very expensive problem. Miss Vaughn, we need to discuss the precise language in your resignation letter. Of course, Mr. Winters. What specifically concerns you? The conditional phrasing. Your resignation states it's effective upon receipt of all contractually owed compensation. Our interpretation is that you resigned effective October 24th, and standard final payment processing occurs within the normal payroll cycle. I let the silence stretch for 3 seconds. That's not what the letter says, Mr. Winters. My resignation becomes effective when you fulfill the conditions. Until then, I remain employed. And the meter is running. I'm sorry, what meter? My daily salary is $739.73. My benefits continuation costs ascend approximately $180 per day. My stock options vest monthly at a rate of $4,800. Every day you delay payment, those obligations increase. Today is day 5. You currently owe me an additional $4,598.65 beyond the original settlement amount. The silence on his end lasted considerably longer than 3 seconds. Ms. Vaughn, that's not how. My employment agreement from October 2019 is quite explicit, Mr. Winters. Section 12, subsection C covers change of control provisions. Would you like me to email you the relevant pages? Or do you have your own copy? We'll need to schedule a call with our legal team. Of course, the meter continues running until we reach an agreement. The conference call happened November 1st at 2 p.m. Jonathan Winters, Cameron Foster, Logan Pierce. They're outside counsel for Morrison and Fletcher. Elizabeth Hartman on my side. Jonathan opened with corporate posturing about good faith negotiations and mutual understanding. Elizabeth let him talk for exactly 90 seconds before interrupting. Mr. Winters, before we discuss settlement terms, my client wants to clarify what additional documentation exists regarding her termination. I heard papers shuffling on their end. Ms. Vaughn maintained detailed records during the transition period. This includes legally recorded conversations under Colorado's one-party consent law. 17 separate recordings, to be precise. The silence was spectacular. In one recording from June 12th, Mr. Pierce refers to my client as expensive deadweight from the previous era. On August 3rd, Mr. Foster describes senior employees as relics we need to clear out. September 19th features an extended discussion about systematically eliminating anyone over 45 to reduce payroll costs. Those conversations were private executive meetings, Cameron's voice tight with panic. Private meetings my client attended or was explicitly discussed in. Elizabeth responded smoothly. Colorado is a one-party consent state. Ms. Vaughn was legally entitled to record any conversation she participated in or where she was the subject of discussion. There's also documentation of the compensation restructuring, I added quietly. Emails showing that only employees over 40 were targeted for pay cuts or termination. Spreadsheets tracking age demographics before and after the acquisition. My personal notes from meetings where age was explicitly mentioned as a factor in staffing decisions. Jonathan Winters cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss settlement terms. The negotiation lasted 4 hours. Elizabeth presented the spreadsheet I'd prepared, documenting every contractual obligation. Base salary continuation through March 2026. Accrued vacation totaling 847 hours. Quarterly bonuses from Q3 and Q4 2025. Stock options vesting through December 2026. The change of control provision in my October 2019 agreement that entitled me to 18-month severance at full compensation. The total came to $1,694,837. Plus the additional daily accrual since October 24th, Elizabeth added. An assigned letter of recommendation on company letterhead acknowledging Ms. Vaughn's exemplary 21-year tenure. They agreed to $1.75 million to make the age discrimination evidence disappear. The wire transfer cleared November 8th at 11:23 a.m. I watched the numbers appear in my account from the desk in my home office, the same desk where I'd backed up 21 years of institutional knowledge 3 months earlier. I started Vaughn Strategic Consulting on November 15th. 3 former Ascent clients contacted me within the first week. By December, I had 7 enterprise contracts and was earning more than I ever made as an employee. I watched from a comfortable distance as Ascent Systems collapsed under Dominion's brilliant leadership. Grayson Mitchell crashed the legacy ERP system during a botched upgrade in January 2026. 2 major clients left in February. Siemens terminated their contract in March after nobody could answer basic questions about their account history. Cameron Foster was terminated in April. Logan Pierce followed in May. The $11.4 billion acquisition that was supposed to generate massive returns lost Dominion $340 million in 18 months. I sent them each a professional congratulations card when I heard the news. Standing on my porch in my deep red wrap top, watching their world crumble felt exactly right.